seems you can't have a cutting-edge mid-sized SUV of any kind these days without having a plug-in hybrid version, so Ford offers that tech with its third-generation Kuga crossover. There are the usual PHEV calling card features here: a 35-mile all-electric driving range, a super low benefit-in-kind taxation rating, and a rather high sticker price, built into a package that should feel a touch more dynamic than most of its rivals.
Perhaps being a market leader is about following established trends rather than pioneering new ones. Ford certainly seems to work that way. The Blue Oval brand didn't really establish any sort of real presence in the SUV sector until the second generation version of its mid-sized Kuga crossover model was facelifted in 2017, and it's taken the company until the 21st century's third decade to launch its first volume-made EV, the Mustang Mach-E, and its first plug-in car, the Kuga PHEV model, which is our focus here. This is the third generation Kuga, moved subtly up market to make space for the freshly introduced Puma crossover, which slots in below this model. It's just as well the Canadian-built Edge SUV is no more, as the Kuga PHEV's asking price would have trampled all over that, and it's knocking at the door of premium territory. Unlike the mild hybrid model in the Kuga range, which is a 2-litre diesel, this PHEV variant is petrol-powered. Ford didn't have a Euro market green pump-fueled engine that was suitable for plug-in tech, so it's borrowed for this installation a 2.5-litre unit that it uses with the US market Escape branded version of this car. The same engine, by the way, features with the HEV self-charging non-plug-in hybrid version of this Kuga that Ford also offers. But our focus today is this PHEV version. Now this is front driven only, and it uses that Duratec power plant paired with a 110 PS electric motor, and it results in a useful total output of 225 PS. The electrified element of this whole setup is powered by a decently sized 14.4 kWh lithium-ion battery, and the whole shooting match is mated to a CVT automatic gearbox. Keep the battery cells topped up, and theoretically up to 35 miles of WLTP rated electric driving range is possible, although a 25 to 28 mile range expectation is probably more realistic. Your feelings on the drive dynamics of this plug-in Kuga will depend on your perspective. Compared to more conventional models in the Kuga range, the near 1.9 ton curb weight of this variant is noticeable, particularly when you're pushing on through the bends. But the ride and handling balance achieved here in comparison to direct PHEV crossover market rivals is vastly better. If you've been used to driving something comparable like Mitsubishi Outlander PHEV, the feel of this Ford will be a revelation. You'll need to get your head around all the drive modes, as well as the usual normal, eco and sport settings. There are also slippery and deep snow sand modes. That is curious because unlike its PSA Group plug-in SUV rivals, this Kuga PHEV can only be had with front-wheel drive. There are also 4 further settings for the electric drivetrain: EV Now, that focuses the drivetrain on all electric output; EV Charge, which rather inefficiently tops up the battery using the engine; and EV Later, which holds on to the current state of charge so that you can save it for the urban driving that you might want to do later in your trip. Most of the time though, you'll be simply leaving the car in EV Auto, where the clever electronics determine the most efficient use of engine and battery power. Now you can boost brake regeneration and therefore energy harvesting by clicking on an L button on the gear selector, and in theory it's possible to drive it up to 85 miles an hour on battery power alone. With the full powertrain working, 62 from rest takes 9.2 seconds en route to 124 miles an hour. There are no really obvious visual giveaways that this plug-in variant is the PHEV model in the range, unless you're sharp-eyed enough to spot the extra flap for the charging point. If you're not familiar with this third generation design, you'll find it to be significantly bigger than its predecessor, 44mm wider and 89mm longer, with the wheelbase increased by 20mm. In place of the sharply chiseled lines of previous Kuga models, the flanks here have smoothly curved concave surfacing, and of course the wheels can be large to suit the current zeitgeist, varying between 17 and 20 inches in size. We have the 19-inch machine finished alloys here. The final look of this nose section depends very much on the trim variant you've chosen, with the grille and front quarter styling quite different as you move through the various spec options. With mid-range titanium spec, the grille gets silver strips and there are slim outer front fog lights. Move to an ST line variant like this one, and those lower fog lights get this more aggressive bisected vented treatment. And there's a Ford performance style grille with wavier elements and an all black finish. Top Vignale trim is different again, with a chromed mesh grille and a distinctive tick style finish around its lower corner cutouts. And across the range, as is usual in this class, there's this seemingly obligatory lower front skid plate. At the rear, a reclined tailgate glass angle is a further nod to the switch away from the traditional boxy SUV silhouette. And of course, there are plenty of sporty touches, this roof spoiler, a rear diffuser and twin tailpipes. In short, it's all more crossover than SUV, which apparently is what you all want. At the wheel, it's much as it would be in a Focus hatch, with the usual 8-inch centre dash, Sync 3 infotainment touchscreen. You sit quite high, the cabin's pretty spacious, and there's plenty of tinsel added to upper spec variants to try to justify the more exalted price positioning, although ultimately some hard and scratchy lower order plastics betray this cabin's relatively humble origins. Upper spec variants get this 12.3-inch digital instrument cluster, which incorporates a right-hand power gauge showing in kilowatts the current output of either battery or engine. In between the two main dials is a customizable section into which you can add various EV-orientated readouts. There's an eco behavior display that offers percentage grades for the frugality of your driving in terms of acceleration, deceleration and speed. And if you're not doing too well with these school-like scores, then there's an eco coach option that'll more proactively tutor you, replaced on HEV and PHEV models by an EV coach screen that uses a series of coloured boxes to show you when power is being efficiently used and when regenerative braking is working to the optimum. The rear bench hasn't been compromised by battery placement, as is the case with some PHEV models, and it reclines for greater comfort, and it also slides over a range of 150mm, allowing you to choose between legroom and luggage space behind. Talking of luggage space, let's look at that. This third generation Kuga model's C2 platform was designed around an electrified remit, but cargo capacity is still significantly reduced by the plug-in package, down from 475 to 411 litres. Slide the rear seat forward as far as it'll go, in which case there'll be very little legroom for the back seat folk, and there'll be 581 litres of room. That's down from 645 normally. Flatten the 60/40 split folding bench, and there's 1481 litres of total capacity to the window line. From launch, Kuga PHEV pricing sat in the 33,500 to 38,500 bracket, which means a premium of over £4,000 over the 2-litre MHEV mild hybrid diesel version of this car. In other words, you've got to really want the plug-in hybrid tech. Even so, Ford expects this PHEV model to account for 26% of the Kuga range sales mix. For the plug-in variant, there are 4 trim levels: titanium, ST line, that's the most popular, ST line X, which is what we have here, and top Vignale. Like the MHEV version, this plug-in hybrid only comes in front-driven form. If you want the option of all-wheel drive, Ford offers a self-charging HEV petrol hybrid variant of this model, which uses the same 2.5 litre Duratec petrol engine. This PHEV Kuga has a very specific group of rivals, and it looks good value against them. Think in terms of a £2,000 to £3,000 saving against direct competitors like PHEV hybrid versions of Peugeot's 3008, Vauxhall's Grandland X, Citroën C5 Aircross, and also the Mitsubishi Outlander PHEV and the Volkswagen Tiguan e-Hybrid. If, having considered all that, you conclude it is some sort of Kuga PHEV that you really want, then you're going to need to know just how generous Ford has been with the standard spec. So let's take a look at that right now. Now, even the titanium variant is well equipped with LED headlights, climate control, 18-inch alloy wheels, a quick clear heated windscreen, an 8-inch Sync 3 center dash infotainment screen, auto headlamps and wipers, keyless entry, and a very complete package of camera-driven safety kit. Inside, in a titanium spec Kuga, you can expect sports seats with lumbar support, cabin ambient lighting, and a B&O premium audio system. As mentioned earlier, Ford expects ST-line spec to be the most popular choice, partly because it looks sportier with a body styling kit, 18-inch rock metallic alloy wheels, sport suspension, black roof rails, and a large rear spoiler, and partly because it's a spec that you have to get the 12.3-inch digital instrument cluster. The ST-line cabin spec also includes a flat bottom steering wheel, alloy pedals, and Sensico sport seats with red stitching. This ST-line X trim adds 19-inch wheels, a panoramic roof, heated powered front seats, and a powered tailgate. And the plush Vignale variant gets full leather upholstery and special 19-inch luster nickel alloy wheels. Standard safety kit includes Ford's pre-collision assist with autonomous emergency braking system. There is also a lane keeping alert system that warns you if you veer out of lane, and a lane keeping aid which will automatically steer you gently back into where you should be in your lane. And Ford provides an intelligent speed assist speed limiter. Now that can be programmed to automatically set itself whenever you enter a speed limited zone, not allowing you to exceed the legal figure. In addition, the standard Ford Pass Connect embedded modem package includes an eCall emergency assist feature. Now that will automatically alert the emergency services if the airbags go off in an accident. Avoid entry-level Z-Tech trim, and you also get a driver alert driver impairment monitor. Now that monitors your driving reactions for drowsiness. If you want to go further, we'd recommend that you take a look at the optional driver's assistance pack, where the key feature is an adaptive cruise control setup. Now this not only automatically keeps you a safe distance from the car in front on the highway, but it also includes lane centering assist, and that will subtly apply steering correction to keep you in the center of your lane. The driver assistance pack also includes BLIS, blind spot information system, and now that works on the move to warn you if you're just about to dangerously pull out to overtake when there's a vehicle in your blind spot. And there's plenty else too. Traffic sign recognition. Now that pictures speed signs as you pass them and displays them on the dash. And cross traffic alert. Now that warns you of oncoming vehicles when you're reversing out of a space. It's also worth knowing that with this driver's assistance pack, Ford will additionally throw in front and rear view cameras, door edge guards that spring out to protect against parking dings, and the active park assist system that we mentioned earlier. Now that's there to automatically steer you into spaces. With the PHEV variant, you're limited to front-wheel drive, but you get the much bigger 14.4 kilowatt-hour lithium-ion battery, which facilitates the PHEV variant's 35-mile all-electric driving range. Compare that with the 28-mile range that you get from the PHEV segment sales leader, Mitsubishi's rival Outlander PHEV. 35-mile range, Ford reckons, will cover a wider range of ordinary customer journeys, over 80% of typical trips according to the brand. This extended electrified range in turn allows this plug-in hybrid Kuga, like every other PHEV model on the market, to quite legally manipulate the WLTP testing procedure, hence the fantasy combined cycle fuel figure of up to 201.7 mpg and the quoted CO2 return of 32 grams per kilometre that makes possible this plug-in variant's low 10% benefit-in-kind taxation rating. That's in year 1, it's 11% in year 2 and 12% in year 3. To give you some perspective on that, a conventional Kuga 1.5 litre EcoBlue diesel automatic sits in a lofty 36% banding. What about road tax? Well, that'll be cheap too. The PHEV falls into VED band B. The fuel figure won't, of course, bear any actual relation to what you'll achieve in day-to-day driving reality. That probably won't be very much different to what you get from the comparable diesel variant. And obviously, if you neglect to charge the car up, you'll simply be driving a heavy petrol-powered SUV, in which case you'll be lucky to see around 35 miles per gallon in regular use. The return that you actually do get in this PHEV Kuga will depend not only on how you drive the car, but also on your mastery of the various settings for the electric drivetrain, accessed via this EV button between the seats. EV Now focuses the drivetrain on all electric output. EV Charge, rather inefficiently, tops up the battery using the engine, and EV Later holds on to the current state of charge so you can save it for urban driving that you might want to do later on in your trip. Most of the time though, you'll simply leave the car in EV Auto, where the clever electronics determine the most efficient use of engine and battery power. Now you can boost brake regeneration and therefore energy harvesting by activating this L setting down here on the rotary gear selector. And charging, well, as we mentioned earlier, a Kuga PHEV owner will need to get to grips with that too in order to make the sums add up. There's no quick charge capability from public rapid charges as there would be in a full EV. The charging port is on the same side as the fuel filler, and the quickest you'll be able to recharge from empty is in 3.3 hours from the 7.4 kilowatt garage wall box that Ford offers at extra cost. Another thing a PHEV buyer would have to keep aside some cash for. A standard domestic 3-pin plug will charge the car in around 6 hours. As a Kuga PHEV owner, you'll be able to manage your charging regime via the special section of the Ford Pass app. From this, you'll be able to use your smartphone to check on your car's range and state of charge. Plus, you'll be able to set charging times and levels, precondition the cabin climate prior to departure, and oversee trip and charge journey logs, which, amongst other things, will list the MPG figures attained. Whatever Kuga derivative you decide on, it's reasonable to wonder whether the quoted returns that we've given you in this section will really be achievable in real-world everyday motoring. Well, fortunately, Ford's technology aids you here, particularly if you opt for the HEV or PHEV full hybrid models. The instrument binnacle screen has various selectable readouts which will certainly help with drive efficiency. There's one for fuel economy and there's another eco behavior display, and that offers percentage grades for the frugality of your driving in terms of acceleration, deceleration and speed. If you're not doing too well with these school-like scores, then there's an Eco Coach option, and that will more proactively tutor you, replaced on HEV and PHEV models by an EV Coach screen, which uses a series of coloured boxes to show you when power is being efficiently used and when regenerative braking is working to the optimum. The full hybrids also get an energy efficiency readout that shows estimated range from the next full charge. A lot of the same tools can be accessed via the special My Driving section of the Ford Pass app we just mentioned. Now here you can check on your driving efficiency and braking scores and catch up on the recent EV miles you've driven and the CO2 and fuel thereby saved. The app will even show you how many miles have been gained through proactive use of regenerative braking. Get all of this right, and Ford reckons that a typical Kuga PHEV owner could reduce his or her fuel bills by up to 40 to 50% depending on charging and vehicle usage. What else? Well, we'll tell you about servicing, which on all engines is required every 2 years or 18,000 miles, whichever comes first. 2 prepaid servicing plans are available, one that covers you for 2 years and 2 services, and another one that is transferable to future owners and which covers 3 years and 3 services. Insurance groupings for this PHEV plug-in hybrid are pitched between groups 18 to 20. Finally, let's cover the question of residual values. Now, this area has never been a Kuga strength, but experts predict that this Mark III model will perform surprisingly strongly, especially in this plug-in form. To be specific, after a typical 3-year, 27,000 mile period, a typical ST line spec PHEV Kuga should still be worth £16,735, or around, 47% of what you originally paid for it. This Kuga certainly required wider appeal if it was to expand its market share and push itself up market, and this third generation model's extra full hybrid drivetrain options delivered just that. Adding the weight and complexity of a PHEV system doesn't do the Kuga any favours in terms of either its handling or its price positioning. Ford, though, is hoping that target market customers will think those drawbacks are an acceptable trade for the not inconsiderable benefit of being able to slash taxation payments and being able to conduct almost exclusively electrified mileage. This car's growing array of mid-sized SUV plug-in rivals all have the same appeal, of course, but this Kuga feels a more interesting steer than any of them, despite its near 1.9-ton curb weight, which is important. Just because your next family car might need to be in some way electric, it doesn't have to feel like some kind of domestic appliance. Ford knows how to create something better, and it shows with this car.